All right, so we're at the. Where are we right now?
We are at the Jackson Diner in Jackson Heights, Queens.
All right, so why don't you introduce yourself to the camera, Mr. Gross?
My name is Todd Gross. I am a photographer from Queens.
All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about your photography and kind of how you got started and.
Well, let's see. I bought a camera. Essentially, that's what I did. I had some money to burn. And
Always
so,
having money to burn is a good thing?
No, yeah. I just always liked cameras, and I thought, hey, why not buy one? And so I did, and I don't know, it just kind of suited me walking around. I had no idea what I was doing at first, but just, I really don't know. I think. Is that a long enough pause for you?
or like, how old were you when you first started taking photos?
I was in my mid-20s. Yeah, and
have you always had like an artistic bent, like?
I think I was an artist without an art.
An artist without an art.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that concept?
Well, when I was a kid, I liked drawing like Mad Magazine style cartoons.
Oh, nice. Uh-huh.
But I wasn't any good at that, and so I stopped. I got discouraged, and I was always searching for something. And I picked up guitar, but I could only play 3 chords. I didn't get much beyond that.
Songs for the ladies.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of ladies back then, let me tell you. And so I was always in search of something.
Yeah.
And really the camera was just another thing. And until maybe, I think actually I've written this before, but yeah, until digital photography actually. And I saw blogs, photo blogs, the first couple of photo blogs.
What are the first photo blogs you kind of stumbled upon?
The first one was Lightning Field by David Gallagher. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, you mean you could go out and take pictures and put them on the internet?
When was this? What year was this?
This was late 2000.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I want to do that. I was working, doing web stuff at the time, coding websites. So it was kind of right up my alley. So I ordered a $100 camera from Apple.
Apple?
Yeah, from Apple.
Apple sold cameras?
That was my reference at the time. I was like, oh, I'll go to the Apple website, and I bought. It was like $125. And I think it took the pictures were 640 by 480.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, and I was like, all right. And so I walked around and I hand coded my own blog. No CMS, no database, nothing.
That's hardcore.
All flat HTML. And that was it. I was up and running. And a few months later, I started getting a response. And when you're on the internet, and you get some sort of positive response.
Definitely.
Forget about it. We were talking about that before. It's like crack. So I was like, oh wow, this is kind of interesting. People are actually, I'm not prompting them, and they're writing me about the photos. I remember it was probably like maybe 4 or 5 months after I started the blog. I was in Las Vegas, and I was checking my email, and I got these emails. Oh, the pictures, blah blah blah, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So I just took it farther and farther, and started getting more obsessed with it. And then that camera wasn't good enough. I got another camera, and then digital wasn't good enough. So I got into film photography.
So you started with digital?
I did. Actually, no. I started with film, but this was a few years before. It was black and white.
Todd in black and white.
Yeah. I think I took a photo of a police motorcycle that I was very happy with.
Oh, nice.
That I printed myself.
Wow.
And but that was probably as far as that went. All the prints went in the drawer. It didn't really go anywhere. And so it wasn't until 2000, 2001, I got the digital camera, and that just really got me into it.
So usually people start from film, then go to digital.
Right.
It seemed, for the most part, you kind of went backwards.
Well, I think that's what people do nowadays because digital is, people think of photography as it is digital photography.
Yeah.
And then they go back and they rediscover film. And they're like, oh yeah, but people used to shoot film, let me give that a try.
Yeah.
But I did start with film. So when I went back to it, actually the reason I went back to it was I saw somebody there was a picture I saw online, guy had a Lomo, and he took a picture of a red dumpster in Singapore, and he blogged about his...
Who was the photographer?
This is Eric Alba. You could look him up. He's still out there. I think he's a visual effects designer.
Okay.
Anyway, so he was in Singapore on a job, and it was just this blog entry. He had the Lomo, took a picture of a dumpster, and something about the red of the dumpster like really captivated me. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. So I was like kind of in search of color. And I like the look. Oh, well, I always wanted a Lomo. He had one, so I bought one.
Which Lomo was it?
The LCA.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is actually a real camera. It's not one of these things where it takes 4 frames and whatever. No, it's real. It's not bullshit. And so just that got me started in film. And then when there was a lab called Spectra at the time. They used the Fuji Frontier system. So the prints that I would get from that were just like off the charts. They really popped. They were really great. And in fact, the early blog, I scanned all the prints.
Oh, you scanned the prints.
Scanned the prints on a flatbed scanner.
That's epic.
So I still have at home, probably from, I did that for maybe 2 years, 3 years. I have just stacks and stacks of prints.
Nice.
4x6 prints.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And can you tell us, because I look at your photos and they're, you mentioned talking about the color. What is it about color that draws you to it? And maybe like because there's a lot of people who shoot in black and white.
Right.
And I would say still nowadays, nowadays there are more people shooting color,
right.
but still the majority, I think, at least street photographers are shooting black and white.
Right.
Why color for you?
I mean, it's been said before, but that's just, the world is in color. I just respond to it instinctually. Can I say that?
Yeah.
A lot of people use that word too. Yeah, instinctually. It's just, I just like color. I see it, I feel it. I did start with black and white, but I don't know. There's something about it. It never really worked for me. Now I could tell you, well, maybe in a way, almost black and white is artificial. Why would you want to see the world in black and white? It's in color. It seems like it's almost like a filter on its own. No, really.
Yeah, it is. It's true. It actually is true. Yeah.
It's kind of a ridiculous notion.
Yeah.
Because clearly, obviously, they're fantastic black and white photographs and photography.
Yeah. But we don't see the world in black and white.
You don't see the world in black and white, and I just like color.
You have a certain affinity to certain color photographers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your certain photographers, like William Eggleston, Martin Parr, for example, any other photographers, what is it that you see? Saul Leiter, yes. Speaking a little bit about, what about their photos that draws you to it, and maybe other photographers as well whose work has inspired your work?
I mean, it's almost the same question, really. I think initially I was really captivated by the pop of color of, well, let's say like Martin Parr. When I first saw his work, like I had never seen anything like that. Like that kind of like that flash during the day with the color popping in that way. Like to me, it looked real, but it looked like another world. and I was just totally captivated by that. Eggleston too. It's like, I mean, you can't escape the color. You can't miss it. And I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain because for me, it's just instinctual. It's just the way I see things. It's what I'm attracted to. It's like explaining why do I like chocolate. It tastes good, you know, or why do I like to drink beer? It's just something I like. I just feel it probably is kind of subconscious though. It's just what I'm attracted to. It's not even something I think about. I think I wrote somewhere in someone's blog that like when I see a lot of color, I run to it like a fly to shit. And I mean that. Like that is something. Hey, we all walk around and something catches our eye.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So one of the things for me, besides maybe something unusual on the street or an interaction, is like color. Like I can be walking along and kind of glance to my left and see like really big red and blue and be like, all right, I'm gonna go down there and check that out. What's that? You know?
So when it comes to working in color, I see a lot of your photos. The color you have a good sense of color harmony in the photos. So like,
right.
Do
I?
I think you do. Like, there'll be nice shades of red contrast against the blue or the orange and like the brown of a coffee stain.
Right.
How much of that, how would you say, really comes to mind? Like, are you trying to look for a certain like a certain combination of colors when you're taking a photograph?
No, I can't say that I think about it very much, other than, there might be a couple of specific examples. Like, just a few years ago, but there was a wall in Soho. It's storefront. It's bright pink. So, like, I walked by one day and I saw the sun hit it, and I'm like, oh, well, I got to make a photograph here. Like that right there, to me, that's half a photograph.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to have some action or some content or whatever, but like when I see that color, like that's half of it right there. It's just something that, that I'm just attracted to. I look for it.
And when it comes,
now I know when photographers are interviewed and they say, oh, it's instinctual, and they have trouble explaining things. It's true. It's like, it's just, who knows, for whatever reason we're attracted to certain things. It's hard to put it into words. It's like, you just go for it.
Well, one thing I really like about your photos is that I think they're a very good reflection on who you are as a person.
Right.
I mean, I feel looking at your photos and now meeting you here in person, I'm like, oh, his photos are very authentic. They're, they're very, instinctual. They're a good reflection of who you are. Because like a lot of your photos, they're very simple, down to earth, not pretentious. A good dash of humor, but also, kind of a serious side to some of your photos as well.
Right.
Can you talk maybe a little bit more about, how you think your personality and your photos reflect one another, I suppose?
I think, that all sounds right. I like to laugh, that's for sure. And my girlfriend calls me Mr. Jokey. It's true. It's like in a way, that's how I get on in the world. Who knows? Probably to break the ice or make certain situations bearable. I just like to joke. It just comes out. I was explaining to you before, I'm actually a little disappointed that a lot of the stuff that I've done recently is kind of jokey, or it's kind of like one-liners in there.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to show a bit more, I think, of my other side, my dark side, Eric.
The dark side.
Yeah, which I think is another aspect of my personality. I can be kind of aloof and removed and brooding, and I think I used to think that was the side that people really saw in the photos, and to the point where I wasn't really sure I wanted to even put them up there for everyone to see. Yeah, like there would be times where I would think, oh, they're gonna see the man behind the curtain. Like in a way, like our photos are really revealing of who we are, and that was maybe something I was probably shy about showing. My friend Elliot said, "Oh, your stuff is dark," and I was like, "Oh, maybe that's not a good thing." But now that like I think it's a little lighter, it's more humorous. I kind of want to go back to that other stuff, but I don't think it's something that I could choose to do. You know, it's like it's where you are in your life, and I think that in a way that dictates what comes out.
When it comes to your shooting process, you mentioned how you went from digital to film. Now you're actually shooting a lot of digital nowadays. Can you tell us a little bit more about the differences in both, and maybe the strengths and weaknesses of both, and what you prefer at the end of the day, I suppose?
Right. Well, like I said, any keep or any shot that I have that I'm proud of, that I like, at the end of the day, I would want it to be a film image, because film looks better. Film is photography. I think digital in a way is like it's almost like a cheat. It's not real. It's a scam. You know, it's like camera manufacturers have they've just found a way to turn a profit. You know, every couple of years. Now, of course, you can make a great photo with any camera, and I'm kind of kidding a little bit because I shoot predominantly digital now. But even when I review them and I edit them, and there might be one that I'm proud of or I like, whatever, I still look at it and I'm like, well, it's all right. That's okay, you know. But it's just how I got into photography in the first place. I got into it with film, and I really enjoyed using different stocks and seeing the differences between them, and pushing or pulling, processing, and all that kind of thing. And that's the look, that's the feel that I really want. I just don't have the money right now to like really shoot film, so that holds me back.
Well, so if you're talking a little bit about
but don't get me wrong, I mean, digital photography, obviously you can make a great photo with it.
Yeah.
I mean, teach your own.
So I guess maybe the question is, since for you it's all about the color,
Right.
in terms of like the aesthetic of color digital photos versus a film photo, assume you do the proper post-production to a raw image and stuff like that, how do you see the differences in terms of both of them? Like, how would you describe the aesthetic differences for you?
For me, the colors right away. I mean, I'm not somebody that likes to mess with the images too much in post-processing and Lightroom.
Yeah.
I don't like to spend a lot of time, or maybe it's that I don't have the skill even to make the digital photos look the way I might ultimately like. Sometimes I think that, like, I see some people are maybe a little bit better at it, getting the colors nice, and I just don't have the knowledge or the patience to do that. And with film, I don't have to bother generally because I scan all my stuff myself. I scan it. I mean, if I have a good exposure, we're good to go.
Just a quick side note. So when you're scanning your color film, what scanner do you use, and also what settings do you use?
It's like probably a lot of people nowadays. It's the Epson 700 or 750. I forget which one. Which settings? I actually go back and forth between which software I prefer.
Which ones do you use?
I use ViewScan and Superfast. You get different results. In fact, almost like depending on the software, maybe somebody else can tell me if I'm wrong, but I almost feel like it's a different digital interpretation depending on which software you use. So generally, I found Superfast will right away give you a punchier image, And
Do you use a certain
view scan will give
preset
you
or
no.
just the default boom?
No, in Silverfast, I will use, let's say, like a Kodak Portra preset. It seems to work pretty well.
Okay.
But if I'm in view scan, I adjust the color myself because the presets suck. For sure.
And
Generally, I prefer the view scan. It gives you a flatter, more neutral scan.
And what kind of films are you shooting with nowadays?
Kodak Portra and Fuji Pro H.
Which one do you prefer?
I think I like the Portra, but they're kind of the same. You know, it's not like it used to be where there was like a different flavor every week that you can go and try. You know, like there was Kodak had Portra UC, Ultra Color.
Yeah.
Which is a little more saturated film, and I use that all the time. That was fantastic, but that's gone. Yeah. So, but the Portra's great.
And
No complaints.
And so now that you're shooting primarily digital,
Yeah.
your cameras are over there.
Yeah.
It's a D7000
D7000, yeah.
And,
it's old already.
and a 24 mil lens,
Eric, I have to get rid of this thing.
which is like a 35 mil equivalent.
Right. Yeah.
How do you find the difference in terms of how you're shooting the streets? Like, do you find yourself shooting more, like, if you come across a scene, if you're shooting with film, like how many photos would you take of it? How would you frame it versus digital? Like, how do you find
I go batshit insane with this thing. I come up with 500 frames every day. No, yeah, you can't help but get out of control with digital. Like, sometimes when I review them later on, I'm like, and I press the shutter for what reason? You know, it's just, but still, it's a double-edged sword because I also like the freedom to just shoot whatever I want. And there probably are moments that I would have otherwise missed if I thought longer.
with film you might hesitate a
Film
bit?
now, when I go back to it, I actually find it really difficult because I'm so hesitant.
Because every time you click the shutter, it costs money.
It costs money, but it's not even so much that as I'm just so aware. I'm just so aware of each frame that I'm like, am I sure? Am I really sure? Am I really, really sure? You know, and by that time, forget it. It's over.
Yeah.
You know. But I guess that probably has its benefits too, in that I'm more focused on getting what it is I really want.
Yeah.
Whereas with the digital, I'm not quite focused on capturing everything I might see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like personally,
I don't know if I can like even add anything new to like what's been said because I feel like even I've read or seen interviews like over this topic before, and I don't know if I have anything to it. Like people know the pros and cons. I would just say if you're stuck with one and you haven't tried the other, you should give it a try. That's right.
when people are looking at your photos, I guess, is there certain something you want to communicate to the viewer? Like, what do you want your viewers to get out of your photos?
You know, I just want there to be like a genuine piece of me in the frame. I just want to have a successful frame and have myself in there.
So showing your personality through your photos.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm successful with that. I don't know, but I mean, you know, it's art. I think of it as a form of expression. I'm not out to document. You know, even though I may just capture what literally might be in front of me. It's expression.
Can you also talk a little bit more maybe on the role of social media? Now you're quite active on Tumblr. You upload sometimes in Flickr.
Yeah.
How has social media helped you? Like blinking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So so we could continue. So so the role of social media in your photography.
Yeah. Well, where else am I going to put it? I mean, we were talking about that before too. It's a double-edged sword. It's like it's nice that people see the photos, but at least I sometimes get too caught up in the favorites or the who's looking at who or all these kinds of things, and that is definitely not the point. And that is that does take your eye off the ball. But at the same time, you get inspired and encouraged by seeing what other people are doing, and it makes you want to go out there and give it a go. Like, my hats are off to people that our heroes from yesteryear who had to literally get together and just show each other their prints, and then how much photography whatever grade that you want to think of, how much photography did they look at in a day compared to what you do or I do now?
Yep.
Like, they weren't seeing 30 or 40 different people, what they're doing every day. They might have got, who knows, maybe every couple of weeks, maybe on the weekend, maybe they had one friend, or who knows, and they kept going. So I don't know how they.
Well, even you said that you don't really have that many photography contacts
here
in person in New York.
Yeah, I don't have any. Practically.
Maybe I should just move here to be
there you go.
Your best friend.
But, also that's also me. It's like that's who I am, not necessarily everybody else. But maybe New York also. It's like might be different if it was a smaller city where there were fewer people shooting, or you knew you were going to run into so and so, or get together, whatever. Here, it's like you can just forget it. I know that there's 500 people shooting street photography in Midtown Manhattan, but
it's almost maybe too many people.
But I don't see them necessarily. Although I do see Bruce Gilman.
Do you see him a lot?
Not a lot, but I have seen him on Fifth Avenue a couple of times. It's weird.
On social media and on the online world, who are some photographers whose work you like to follow and you enjoy?
I'm gonna have to say, one of my favorites is Mark Howell, Lokenberg on Flickr. Is probably my favorite.
Why?
Because he does something that nobody else really does. I think he just has an original approach. He doesn't. It's not quite street portraits. It's not quite street photography. His personality is directly involved with the content that he produces. I don't know how to put it any other way.
Okay. So to continue. Can you also? So you talk about street photography. One thing that really drew me to your work is the fact that your work is very different from the typical, let's say, Cartier-Bresson type of photograph.
Okay.
I look at your photo; it reminds me more of Eggleston, Stephen Shore, Martin Parr, kind of like. Even if I could even dub it this way, maybe some of it is still life street photography.
Okay.
And there's some people on the internet in the world who are like, oh, but it's not street photography unless it has a person in it, or this and that. What is street photography, and what does it mean to you?
Whatever, whenever. It could be anything. I've seen a couple of definitions bandied about. Photography where you react spontaneously to your environment, whether it could be something still in the street, it could be people moving about. Whatever. As a photographer, if it's a spontaneous reaction to your environment, then it's quote-unquote street photography. But everybody has their definition. Some people will tell you it's not street photography. It's not in black and white, and there aren't somebody doesn't have a banana peel on their head or whatever it is. I don't know. Everybody has their own definition. I wouldn't say I've defined it for myself. I go out and I shoot. Sometimes I'm inspired by a particular photo I've seen, so I have that in mind. Sometimes it's just comes out of thin air. I don't know. I wouldn't define it. I think let's not define that, Eric.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree with everything you mentioned. Yeah, they're like, why is this guy so popular? This is your interview. Can you also talk a little bit maybe about your editing process? Of how do you know if your photo is good?
It's fucking torturous. It's really what
Torturous,
it is.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
I pull my hair out when I look at these things.
Is that why you're balding up here?
You know what? It's not. But it's adding to it.
Okay.
Yeah. It is just like. Well, it's different with digital versus film. Like I said, sometimes I'll look through the digital stuff and I'll be like, oh man, what am I doing now? What am I doing? I'm looking for the keepers, so I'm kind of anxious. I don't look forward to the editing. I'd rather go out and shoot. That's why I'm usually several weeks behind, whatever, because I just put it off, and then I'll have a binge and I'll go through a lot of stuff and do like a quick edit, and then like look at it a couple of times, figure out which ones I prefer, and that's it, and then just let them go. But I'm not necessarily my best editor, which is probably true for a lot of people. I mean, who knows? There are probably frames that I've totally passed over, which might even be good frames, but I can only go by my judgment. Not always the best.
So how do you judge your photos? How do you know if what you consider good to be good?
Yeah, I guess it changes over time, but. Well, sometimes when I'm out shooting, I'll be like, ah, that's one right there. I'll be like, oh man, that was a moment. That's cool. And then when I review it later on, I think there are times where I can't necessarily see that it's actually shit. You know what I mean? And then there are other times where I'm like, well, this is not really very good. But I guess there's something here, and then that ends up to be the one that people respond to. So I don't know. What was your question?
Or so maybe if you're looking at photo, how much of it do you take in consideration? Maybe the form versus the content versus the colors versus the light. Like,
I mean,
do you have a certain?
It's all different. I mean, there might be some where, in fact, a lot lately where like there's like just a specific action in the photo that.
Like a gesture?
Or a gesture, or the way that a couple elements came together where I'm like, oh yeah. I have to be honest, I think that 70% of the time I know the second after I've taken it whether that is the keeper. And then there are little ones that you discover in editing where it's like, oh, wow, I didn't really think of that one at the time, but like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. So it's different. But I think most of them you kind of know. I wonder what you think. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean,
when you're out shooting, like you have a good idea if something is happening or not. And you know.
Well, for me, like I try to shoot a lot in the project mindset. Right. So if I'm shooting my suits project, I look for my suits, or if I'm looking for colorful photos, I'm actually looking for colors, or urban landscapes. I'm specifically looking for that.
Right.
But it seems the way you shoot more is much more like it's from the gut. Like you stroll around whatever's interesting to you.
Right.
Like maybe more of like a stream of consciousness type of photography. How do you think that fits in with the idea of maybe working on a project? Is it like something you're interested in working on more? Because to my knowledge, you don't really work in project.
The project is me. It's Quarlo. That's the project. Quarlo. Like the Tumblr says Quarlo. Photos.
What is Quarlo? Who is Quarlo?
You mean where does the name come from?
Yeah, I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, it comes from an episode of The Outer Limits. The original Outer Limits TV show. Eric, is that before your time?
It might be before my time, man.
You never saw that? We control the vertical. We control the horizontal. No? That's not ringing a bell? Damn. Anyway, it's an early 60s TV show, kind of, at the time, I think it was Twilight Zone ripoff. There was only 2 seasons. But when I was a kid, let's say, I don't know, 10, 11...
But it was still even old for that time.
It was over that time. Okay. The reruns were on.
Okay.
It was like it would be like on, Channel 9, local television, and it would be on like 11 o'clock at night. So anyway, Quarlo is from an episode of the Outer Limits called The Soldier. And Quarlo is a soldier from the future, stranded in 1962.
Nice.
Yes. So, I don't know, as a kid, like the name I was like, wow, that sounds weird. It has a Q in it, that's obscure, I like that. And so I just remembered the name and I used it for a lot of things.
Would you say maybe this is your alter ego?
In a way, yeah, I mean, it's just a name. It's kind of reminds me now of like in the way that like Duran Duran, they took the name from Barbarella. Have you ever seen the movie Barbarella with Jane Fonda? There you go. Anyway, it's like, it's that kind of thing. It's just, you know, a name came from someplace else that just caught my attention.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the Q. I like the fact that it's kind of like, what is that? It has like a bit of mystery to it. That's what I like.
So, you know, that's one thing that's nice you said is the mission is Quarlo, is to show who you are.
Right. But I would like to shoot. I often think I should have a project in mind, right? If I want to be more serious.
I don't think you have to. It just depends on your personality.
Yeah, I mean, I have like very, very loose ideas, but they're more based around like areas of the city and the kind of people that are in the city. It's not really a project.
So, you shoot a lot here in Queens. You're from Queens.
Yeah.
You're just a 10-minute ride from Manhattan.
I live literally like I can spend 5 minutes on the train. I'm right in Midtown Manhattan.
I look at your Manhattan photos and your Queens photos, and they're very different. How would you say they are different to you?
Well, nowadays I'm very self-conscious when I go into Manhattan because I think that's where there's a concentration of people shooting, and that's where people have done that's where all these famous street photographers have done their work over the years. And so I kind of think I probably should show more Queens just because it's
underrepresented.
Yeah, underrepresented, and also I know it so well. So I do try to do that, but I have to admit there's the action in Manhattan sometimes that I miss that you don't quite get here. But I think ultimately I get something that's a little bit more unique working here.
So maybe is much quieter and.
Well, I mean, compared to where Queens as quiet as Pittsburgh, or less or more. I don't know.
Probably less quiet than Manhattan.
You're staying in Flushing, right?
Yeah.
You walk to the train in Flushing. Is that quiet? I don't think so. It's like it's crazy. So it all depends. I mean, in Manhattan, even you could go off the beaten track and be in a kind of residential area and shoot, which I've done. I think now I have to push myself further, not be so lazy, and go a little bit farther afield. So,
how do you think you're going to be able to take your photography to the next level, perhaps?
I really don't know. Actually, that's like that. I don't know. Do I need to? That's a question.
That is a question.
And I'm not really sure how I would do that. I mean, what would be farther necessarily? To be a guy with a book or something? I don't even know. I think that, let's put it this way, I've only shot really seriously, cumulatively for, I don't know, like really seriously, 7 years maybe, something like that. That's not a very long time.
Well, longer than most people.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think I'm learning, I don't think I've really gotten to that point where I don't want to sound pretentious, but I mean, I don't know if I've really gotten even to the point where my style has been cemented in my brain, wherein I go out. I mean, yes, I do it. I mean, yes, I still think about what I do sometimes, as far as subject matter, and I don't think I have it all down, is what I'm trying to say. And so maybe that would be taking it to the next level, would be feeling more secure in my mind about what I'm doing, less questioning. But then, I don't know, maybe when you question yourself, that's how you push yourself. So I don't really know.
So what are some other maybe insecurities you have about your work?
But it's shit. I don't know. I mean, that's true. I mean, I am surprised. I am shocked that people show interest. Really, like, I'm much more critical these days. A few years ago, I loved everything I did. Like, oh wow, look at this, wow, you know, I get the prints back, and I'd be like, wow. And now I'm so hypercritical that in a way it's a little bit more work.
Well, I think that's a sign that you're actually developing as a photographer. Is the second that you could look at your photos and say they are shit is
Right.
probably a good sign, because the second you're like, oh, my photos are amazing, then that's mean you're stagnant, you know?
Catch me saying that. I'm just not that dude, you know. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, like I can second guess a paper bag. Like I'm just the kind of person that I also focus on criticism. I mean, I could find what's wrong with like this pane of glass. You know, it's like I could see the faults. And in fact, when I look at the photos, even though let's say I have one that I'm kind of happy with, or I think is a decent one, or whatever, I still pretty much see the faults, or I see like what I could have done better, or maybe how I envisioned it in my mind.
So, to people who are interested, who are predominantly shooting black and white, maybe interested in shooting more color, and also maybe people who are interested from making the shift, shooting more film photos.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give them?
Just do it. Just do it. Yeah, I don't know if I would have a lot of advice other than here's the cameras and film and just go to it. I mean, it would depend on the person.
Any, for someone starting off in film, any cameras you would recommend? Film cameras?
I mean, there are plenty of people that can recommend cameras, and yourself included. I shot many years with the Nikon N80, which is an inexpensive plasticky autofocus SLR, and it's really, really cheap now. If you had Nikon lenses, you can get them for under $100. And it's a full frame. It's a great camera. I mean, the autofocus is a little wonky compared to what you might see nowadays in a digital camera, but it's great. It's a really inexpensive, very light way to get into film. So I recommend that camera to people who have Nikon lenses. But if you don't, I think anything will do. Like,
oh yeah.
this one right here.
This one's awesome.
Open it up. Yeah.
This
It's
is
the XA.
XA, just the XA, not the 2, 4, 3, whatever.
So tell us more about this
This
camera.
is fantastic. This is a miniature rangefinder focus camera. What is it? Aperture priority automation camera. It's fantastic. With a great 35mm lens. And no, I'm not shilling for Olympus. No, this is great. Everyone knows about this camera. It's fantastic.
Slip it in your pocket and
You slip it in your pocket. It's yeah. In fact, actually, when I bought this a few years ago, but I didn't start using it until maybe last fall. Carrying with me after carrying this around for a year and a half.
yep.
And I was like, wow. I have to be honest. I did enjoy just walking around with the tiny camera in my hand, especially in my girlfriend's parents' neighborhood in northeast suburban Philadelphia, because you really don't want to see that guy with the SLR creeping around taking photos of your front lawn. This is much better. But you know, actually, now that I think of that, there are times where I've walked around with this in my hand like this and gotten some odd looks, like I'm up to no good, because
What do you have to hide?
well, no, it almost appears like it's like a stealthy kind of thing.
Spy camera or
Yeah,
something?
you know, I don't know. So
Everybody has to go figure it out for themselves. Ultimately, whatever works.
So maybe last question.
Sure.
So any shout outs you'd like to give or anything else that I haven't asked you that you would like to mention?
Yes, Elliot. I think you should pick up a camera and start shooting again.
Elliot Irwin?
No, a friend of mine, Elliot Shepard.
Okay.
Yes. So, yes.
And any other things that people should watch out from Quarlo?
No, just look at the Flickr, look at the Tumblr.
So where
Let me know
can
what you
people
think.
follow you?
They can follow me at, I don't even know the URLs. Quarlo on Flickr and Quarlo on Tumblr.
Quarlo.com? Is it Quarlo?
You can, actually, yeah. You can,
I think it's Quarlo.com, right?
type in Quarlo.com and you go right to the Tumblr.
All right, sweet. All right, thanks a lot for your time, Todd. All right,
Yeah.
rock on.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, peace out.